So, well, friends, as you know, this FDP is about curriculum design and evaluation. So, let us assume that curriculum design has been carried out by the curriculum experts, and now it has come to you to implement. Now, for implementing the curriculum, every teacher is required to deliver instruction for theory subjects in classrooms, conduct practicals in the laboratory, and also give workshop exercises or drawing exercises and so on. So when you are delivering instruction in the theory subjects or for the practicals, a number of questions come to you which require answer or for which you need certain input. So let us have a look at those issues or those the questions which you require the answer. Firstly, it is, as a teacher, you want to know to what extent your teaching plan is or was realistic for particular group of students. You know, in a classroom, variety of students are sitting. Some students learn best when something is told to them. Some learners learn best when something is shown to them. Some learners learn best when they are involved or when they are contributing to the classroom. So, whether my lesson plan, my teaching plan is realistic for the particular group of students, and how should I can group my students for more effective learning. What is the effective group size? I want to know to what extent my students are ready for the next learning experience. You see, a teacher enters the classroom with some assumption that my students are already familiar with this. Now, if a teacher doesn't measure those prerequisites, if a teacher doesn't ensure that the prerequisites are equipped in the students, then the lecture is going to be boring for them. So the teacher wants to know whether my students are ready to receive new lecture, to what extent my students are attaining the minimum essentials of the course, to what extent are the students progressing beyond the minimum essentials. So as a teacher, I want to know. As a teacher, I want to know at what point would a review be most beneficial during the semester. What type of learning difficulties are the students encountering? Which students are underachievers? Which students have poor self understanding? Which students should be referred to counseling, special classes, remedial programs? And above all, was my teaching effective? So, in order to have answer to these questions, teacher has to, carry out measurement and evaluation. So this particular session is about student evaluation, and measurement evaluation indicate how much a student has learned and what subsequent instruction should emphasize. Teachers, have been using the term measurement, test, scoring, assessment, evaluation interchangeably. Actually, the meaning is very different. Uh, you see, the concept of evaluation is much more comprehensive than the concept of measurement, test, scoring, because evaluation involves value judgment. So let us briefly have a distinction between these four concepts. Firstly, it is the measurement. So measurement means the quantitative aspect of a person's performance. When I say Ramesh got 45 out of 50 correct mathematics problem, so that indicates a numerical description of the degree to which that particular student possesses a particular characteristic or attribute. So it is a quantitative or numerical assessment of the performance of the student. This measurement is used to indicate a student's strength, weaknesses. That is, this answers the question how much. But measurement doesn't give whether that performance is worth or not. That is, it doesn't include the qualitative aspect of his performance, that is whether his work was neat and structured. Okay, so measurement is only the quantitative description. Coming to test is nothing but an instrument which is used to measure the performance of the students on a particular domain of you see behavior. So the instrument which is used to measure performance is called a test. You see is developed by the teacher when he is giving the sessional test, or when the external papers are conducted. So these are prepared by the teacher. Some tests, some tools are also produced or developed by the standardized publishing companies, uh, like say you have got learning style inventory, interest inventory, aptitude tests. These have been developed by a team of experts. So test. Coming to the scoring is the procedure of assigning a numerical value to assessment tasks. So for a teacher, he has to, you see, design the rubrics for making different for assigning marks to different components of a particular question. Okay, so procedure. And then we have got the assessment. Assessment is the process of measuring something with the purpose of assigning a numerical value. And coming to evaluation, it is either quantitative or qualitative appraisal of performance, and includes, you see, value judgment. So it means evaluation goes beyond, or you can say evaluation adds insights to measurement. When I say Mr. Ramesh's most recent mathematics score was 95% correct, therefore he is making good progress in mathematics. So evaluation is concerned with the desirability of the result. That is why we say it includes the value judgment. Okay, so it is the process of providing information for decision making, or process of determining the worth of something in relation to established benchmarks using assessment information. It is the systematic process of determining the extent to which learning outcomes are achieved by a student. So, it is a systematic process in the sense that learning outcomes are determined first, then the content is selected, the methodology is selected, the teacher imparts the instruction in regard to those learning outcome, then teacher has also selected the tool for measuring the performance of the students, and then the teacher measures the performance of the student, and then that performance, that scores are used for decision making. Okay, so systematic process of determining the extent to which learning outcomes are achieved by the student. So that is why we say that it answers the question how well did we do, or how much did we do. So evaluation can be made on individual student, it can be made on the entire class, can be made on the entire you see engineering college or polytechnic or state, so and so on. Okay, so now you must be wondering the difference between assessment and evaluation. As I say, assessment focuses on measuring learning out progress and achievement, whereas evaluation focuses on making judgments and decisions based upon the data which the measurement has provided. So assessment is primarily formative in nature, I would say, providing ongoing feedback, that is monitoring the learning progress during a semester when we give the class quizzes or sessional test. So we measure the learning progress during the semester and we provide them feedback on an ongoing basis. Whereas evaluation is primarily summative, okay, providing an overall judgment. Okay, so assessment may include the test, quizzes, or other structured method, whereas evaluation employs multiple data collection method like observation हो सकता है, surveys हैं, interviews हैं, and so on. Now, the purposes of evaluation. The basic purpose is to provide information in regard to the extent to which a student has achieved mastery over a set of learning outcomes included in a course. For example, if the learning outcome is that my students will be able to define force after the lecture is over, then I will ask question define force, and if there is a definite one-to-one correspondence between the answer of the question and the statement of the question, then we say that the student has attained mastery over that particular learning outcome. So we get information through the tool. You can also compare the performance of the student against learning outcome. You can also compare the performance of one student against the performance of another students, that is the norm reference testing. It gives information to the teacher regarding the adequacy of methods of instruction. You see, you have delivered instruction by using chalk and talk method, and you have noticed that students were not attentive, and they were not taking keen interest in the classroom. So it means some feedback you get yourself, that whatever you are telling to the students, that content is not being received by the student in a proper manner. So you need to, uh, uh, experiment upon some other method of teaching, maybe demonstration, maybe flipped classroom. I think you might have heard about flipped classroom. You see, in a traditional class, the teacher delivers lecture in the classroom and gives them some exercises for carrying out at home, and many a time the students do not complete the task, and many a time the students simply copy the task from the other students. Okay, this is the present system of teaching, that is lecture mode. Now in a flipped classroom, whatever you want to deliver to the students, you can provide them in the form of PDF, that is your content PDF, or maybe in the form of self learning material or computer assisted instruction material, or if you have got some video of 5 to 10 minutes duration, maybe you can get it from Google, YouTube, or you can develop yourself. So that material, that is PDF, the video content can be given to the students in advance. Now they are preparing at home individually. Now when they come to the class, they can seek for clarification. The teacher can, give them exercises, so problem solving can be completed in the classroom. So can you experiment upon this new method of teaching, whether this is going to be very effective or not? So the teacher can also make various decisions based upon the input which he has got through examination, or you can say evaluation. uh, he can make certain changes in his subsequent instruction. He can make groups. He can diagnose the students learning difficulties. Students can be referred to counseling and guidance also. Even the student himself gets the information about the nature and the level of his or her performance. And the same information, can be used by the institutional administration for the purpose of placement of student, for the purpose of grouping of the student, for the promotion from of the student from one semester to another semester. Maybe the information can be used for providing in-service training to the teacher. Say some teacher uh, uh, is given some subject for which he has no mastery over it, and that is why his result is not, you see, as per the desired outcome. So there is a need to send that particular teacher for in-service training, or maybe the results are poor because of the paucity of or shortage of facilities in the laboratory or workshop. So you can procure facilities for particular this thing. So this information uh, 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 which we got through measurement and evaluation can be used by the board of technical education or the university technical education university regarding the knowledge of regarding the strength, regarding the weaknesses of instruction or learning, and the same information is also helpful for the parents of the students also. So basically the purpose is to provide information. Now coming to types of evaluation, at which state at which stage in teaching evaluation is carried out, what is the purpose of different types of evaluation. Let us have a look at. First of all, it is the placement evaluation. Now placement, when a teacher enters the classroom, he enters with certain assumption that my students are already familiar with this. So he has to ensure. How he can ensure? By asking few questions pertaining to those things. For example, say I want to come to the topic on inertia, and I have assumed that the students are already familiar with the concept of rest, concept of motion, concept of force. So what I do, I place one object on the lecture stand or the table and ask my students, what is the position of this object? Is it at rest or is it moving? Definitely they will say, sir, it is at rest. So reinforce. Wonderful. Now, on switching on the fan, another question, what is the position of this fan? Sir, this is in motion. Good. Now you see this object is at rest. How can we put into motion? They will say, sir, by pushing or by pulling, that is by applying some force, it can be put into motion. Wonderful. Suppose you are sitting in a moving bus and the driver suddenly applies brakes. What happens? They say, sir, we go forward. And what happens when the driver suddenly starts the bus? They say, sir, we go backward. Why are these due to? Now, you see, this is a topic meant for a student of class 4 or 5. He has some input about the concept of rest motion, which you have covered yesterday. About the inertia, he is not aware. So, and he has also experienced in daily life while traveling in a car or while traveling in a bus. Then you say that these are due to laws of inertia. So today in this session we will learn laws of inertia. So through placement evaluation, we want to know whether the student possesses the knowledge, the skill that is needed to begin the planned instruction. That is, whether my students are ready to receive new instruction, to what extent my students have already mastered the objectives of the planned instruction, or to what extent do the students' interest or study habits, personality characteristics are different for different modes of instruction. Now, for this, you can use tools like aptitude test or say pre-test on the particular topic, or self-report inventory on interest, work habit, learning style. So you see that one free or open source tool is available. This index of learning style has been developed by Seldom and Barbara. So you can go to Google and find this particular tool through which you will be able to identify the learning styles of your students. And if you know the learning styles of the student, accordingly, you can choose the appropriate learning material, or you see method of teaching and the media to meet the different needs and the requirements of your students in the classroom. So this is done in the beginning. Now coming to the second one, that is the formative evaluation. So evaluation of a student's performance or learning during a course. Okay, now you see in a semester you have uh, you give some assignments, quizzes. You also administer 2 or 3 sessional tests. Okay, basically the purpose is to monitor the learning progress during instruction. And while you see you are delivering one lecture, after completing one part of the lecture, you can ask 1 or 2 questions. In case you get appropriate responses, now you are confident that your ideas are well received by your students. If the answers are not satisfactory, and or in case you don't get any response, it means there is a need to give some more input. You need to supplement that particular content with more examples. Okay, so you can make changes in the transactions of subsequent instruction on the basis of the current attainment. So the purpose of formative evaluation is to provide continuous feedback. Okay, so for this, mastery test for each unit of instruction, sessional test pertaining to classroom instruction, laboratory, workshop, field test, so quizzes, discussions, home assignments. So on the basis of the results of formative evaluation, instruction can be modified to best meet the requirement or the needs of these students. So teacher can review the content matter, he can review his own presentation style, he can determine which portion requires further elaboration or further discussion. Okay, now coming to the third type of evaluation, that is summative evaluation. From the title itself it is clear that it tells whether and how much the students have learned at the end of a unit of, at the end of a semester, or at the end of a course. Okay, so uh, this is used for the purpose of grading, this is used for purpose of certification or evaluation of progress, and the information can be used for conducting some researches on the effectiveness of the curriculum, on the course of study, on or educational plan. So both criterion reference and norm reference test can be employed for assessing the achievement of the students or grading them in respect of prescribed instructional objectives pertaining to classroom instruction, laboratory, workshop, field work, independent study, etc. So, friends, placement evaluation, when it comes to the semester level, you see students get the entry in a college through entrance test. Now they are placed. Formative evaluation during a semester, you are giving assignments, quizzes, 2 or 3 sessionals, and summative evaluation is at the end. So both these three types of evaluation can be conducted at the lecture level also, lesson level also. Now at the lesson level, you ask one or two questions the regarding the extent to which the students are already familiar with the basic concepts of a particular topic. Okay. Formative evaluation during a lecture. Suppose you want to deliver a lecture for 45 minutes. You can divide your input into three uh, chunks. After the completion of one unit or chunk, you can ask one or two questions. You are getting feedback. After delivering input on the for the second unit, you ask one or two questions. Likewise at the end. Now at the end is the summative evaluation. What you can do for the entire topic which you have delivered in 45 minutes or 1 hour, you can you see bring one quiz containing say 10 multiple choice question, maybe through Google form. You can give to the students. They can you see mark their answer within 5 minutes. So the evaluation of that particular topic can be carried out there and then. And there is another type of evaluation which normally a teacher is not bothered about. It is the diagnostic evaluation. That is to diagnose the persistent or the recurring learning difficulties that are left unresolved during lecture or during a semester by some standard corrective prescriptions of formative आपने you have also made certain changes in your lecture on the basis of formative evaluation. Still the students are encountering learning difficulties. It means there is a need to refer the student to the guidance and counselor. So it means you need to have specially prepared diagnostic test. You can also devise certain observation techniques for knowing the behavior of the student in the classroom. So these four types of evaluation. Now coming to the purpose of evaluation, because in the beginning I said that it is a systematic process. So evaluation begins with determining learning outcomes at the beginning. Okay, because we are talking about learning outcomes. Learning outcome is not about what we teach. It is about what our students are to learn, are to perform at the end of a unit of instruction. So learning outcomes are determined first, and then the teacher, you see, uh, prepare a pre-assessment tool. He chooses the content matter. He selects method of teaching. He selects media, that is for providing appropriate learning experiences. So appropriate learning experiences are, you see, developed, and the tools are also developed to collect the data. So after the the lecture has been delivered by the teacher, he gives some quiz, he gets some data. So that result is used for different purposes. I have already told you the purpose of making certain changes in your lecture, the purpose of bringing change in your own method of teaching, in your own presentation style, or maybe um, you can make certain changes regarding the requirement of certain resources in the college and so on. So evaluation process can also be viewed as a cyclical process, including four phases. Firstly, it is the preparation phase. You will see that evaluation process will involve teacher as a decision maker throughout the different phases of the evaluation process. So preparation phase. Now during this phase, the teacher makes decisions about what to be evaluated, whether knowledge, skill, attitude. Now, if I ask you what is knowledge, knowledge means what does someone need to know in order to do a job? That is the theory part. Skill, what does someone need to be able to do? Something which requires hand and head coordination. And third, attitude is equally important. What sort of approach does a person doing that job need to have? So whether you want to measure or evaluate knowledge, skill and attitude, accordingly you will choose for the tool. Whether you want to have information about the prerequisites, that is the placement, whether the purpose is to monitor the learning progress during a lecture or during a semester or the end semester or the diagnostic purpose. Then the criteria against which students learning outcome will be judged. Now if your students in the classroom, you have noticed that they are all bright students, now you will set criteria that my students should be able to perform 80% or 90% correctly or 100% correctly. So you cannot expect the students to perform at 100% if the students are of say average or below average level. So you have to set the criteria also, and the most appropriate assessment strategies with which to gather information on student progress. So this is the preparation phase where the decisions are made about what to evaluate, type of evaluation, the criteria, and which would be the appropriate assessment strategy, because you will find there are various techniques of assessment, and each technique of assessment has its own advantages and limitations. So it will be incorrect to select a single technique of assessment for measuring students' varied learning abilities. So you need to include a mix of various techniques of assessment. I'll come at a later stage, the various techniques. So decisions made during this particular phase will form the basis for planning during the remaining phases. Now let us come to the second phase, and that phase is called as the assessment phase. Now during this particular phase, the teacher identifies information gathering strategies. He constructs the tool or the instrument, and that instrument is administered to the students, and the data is collected on student learning progress. So the identification, the elimination of bias, maybe gender, culture bias, from assessment strategies, instruments, and the determination of where, when, and even how assessment will be conducted are very important consideration during this particular phase. The third phase is the evaluation phase. Now during this phase, the information gathered during the previous phase, that is the assessment phase, is used to make judgments, because we have discussed the concept of evaluation, both quantitative and qualitative, with value judgment. So the information which the teacher has collected during the previous phase, that is the assessment phase, can be used to make judgments about student progress, and based upon the judgment, decisions about student learning program are made They are reported to students, their parents, and even the appropriate curriculum designer or institutional administrator for different purposes. Now, the final phase is the reflection phase, which allows you to ponder the successes and the shortfalls of the previous phases, three phases. So, specifically, evaluate the utility, the appropriateness of the assessment strategies used, and make decisions concerning the improvements or modifications for subsequent teaching, learning, and assessment. So, whether it is placement evaluations, formative evaluation, summative evaluation, or you see diagnostic evaluation, all these types of evaluation involve the four phases, that is the preparation phase, the assessment phase, the evaluation phase, and the reflection phase. Now, coming to the principles of evaluation, very important. So, as a teacher, you need to know what is the purpose of evaluation, first of all. So, clearly specify, because effectiveness of evaluation depends upon knowing this purpose. And the purpose should precede then the selection of evaluation device. Now, second is what to evaluate: learning outcomes in the cognitive domain, affective domain, or psychomotor domain, or the sources of learning outcome, or the levels of learning outcome, teaching learning strategies, instruction media. What do you want to evaluate? And as a teacher, you must have some knowledge about the strategies or the models of evaluation. So, selecting a particular evaluation technique in terms of its relevance, objectivity, accuracy to the characteristics or to the performance to be measured. So, each technique is appropriate, as I said, for some users and inappropriate for other. So, there must be a close match between the learning outcome and the type of test and the item also. For example, the learning outcome is that after the topic is over, students will be able to define force. Then the corresponding question should be define force, and not what do you know about force? What is force? What do you mean by force? Because these three questions are measuring something different. Our learning outcome is define force. So, if you want to provide appropriate results, that is, you want to ensure the validity of your test results, then the test question should relate or map or match with the learning outcome. Now, you see, let me give one more example. Your learning outcome is that after the topic is over, students will be able to describe each of three Newton's laws of motion with one example. This is the learning outcome. Now, you have given a question: what are Newton's laws of motion? Now, this question is quite ambiguous. There is no clarity. One student thinks, okay, I'll give the statements of each of the three laws. Another student says, okay, I'll explain each of the three laws with one example. Another student provides two example each. Another student provides three example each. Now, naturally, when the answer which has discussed three examples will definitely fetch full marks. But there is ambiguity in the statement of the question. The learning outcome was something different. So your question should be, describe each of three Newton's laws of motion with one example. So that will give, you see, the correct result. So another is, comprehensive evaluation requires a variety of evaluation techniques. I already told you that no single type of instrument can assess the varied learning abilities of the students. You see, short answer test can measure students' learning abilities at the knowledge level, or on some occasion at the understanding level. Objective type items are useful for measuring knowledge, learning out, even attitude outcome also. Essay type questions can be used to measure students' ability to organize and express data. There are certain observational techniques which can be used to assess students' performance skill during the practical. There are self-report inventories like interest inventory or attitude scale. So these can be used to evaluate interest and attitude. So a complete picture of student achievement and development requires combining the results of different techniques of test. Then coming to proper use of evaluation technique requires an awareness of their limitations. You see, each technique, there are some tests which are used by, which are prepared by the some experts. Those are standardized tools, and there are certain tools like observation tool or self-report tool. Self-report tool or observation tools are, I would say, crude type of assessment technique, because here you may not get the right picture of a student performance. For example, if I ask you, who is the present Prime Minister of India? Now, if your answer is Mr. Narendra Modi, definitely you are going to get one full mark. Now, if I ask you, do you like mathematics? Now, unlike the first question, this question cannot have a unique answer which can be designated in advance, because for matters of personal preference, the same answer may not be by everybody. You can set the degrees of preferences. How well do you like to study mathematics? There could be five options. One is love it, second is like it, third is indifferent, fourth is dislike it, fifth is hate it, isn't it? So these different types of tools yield results that are subject to various types of measurement errors. Sampling error, for example, achievement test may not adequately sample a particular domain of the content. You have asked the student to attempt any 5 out of 8 questions. Now a student may go for guesswork. So chance factor is there. The student will not prepare the whole syllabi. Chance factor, guessing on objective items, or say subjective scoring on, say, essay type item. When I say write a short note on semiconductor, it this particular answer to this particular question, if this answer is, you see, marked by two or more than two teachers, definitely the same answer sheet will carry different marks. And even In case of self-report inventories, do you like to, how well do you like to study mathematics? There are inconsistent responding on self-report instrument. Okay. And finally, you have to give feedback immediately. Now in Punjab University, Chandigarh, after the examinations are over, the teachers have marked the answer sheets. The answer sheets are shown to the students. Now they can report to the teacher in case some question is left unmarked, or you have provided complete information, the teacher has deducted few marks. He can go to the teacher. If the teacher doesn't agree, then the department HOD can frame a committee of one expert from outside. So there is no system of re-evaluation. So students write seen and satisfied. They give their signature also. In case they are not satisfied, they approach the teacher first and then the HOD. So feedback is to be immediate. And please employ evaluation on an continuous basis. That is, I think now it is being carried out because you have internal assessment, external assessment. Internal assessment includes weightage to say two sessional tests, weightage to uh, weekly quizzes or assignments, or even attendance, regularity, and so on. You are preparing the criteria. Now, coming to the two methods of interpreting the results of student performance. One is criterion referenced testing. The purpose is to compare the performance of one student against the stated learning outcomes. Say there is one topic and the teacher has formulated the learning outcomes. Our purpose is to compare the performance against the learning outcome, whether the student has attained mastery over those learning outcomes or not. That is criterion reference testing. And the classroom test, they are usually based on criterion reference testing. So describe student performance in terms of a clearly defined and delimited domain of learning tasks. Sessional 1, the outcomes, learning outcomes are clearly stated, and you give one portion of a syllabus. You are not giving the whole syllabi. Whatever you have covered during first month or second month, you are giving that particular syllabi for the first sessional test. So student performance is assessed against a set of predetermined standards. So based on a predetermined set of criteria, you provide, you see certain gradings, say A grade to 90% and above, then 80% to 89.99 is B, C, D, and then you have also F grade. Now, second one is the norm reference testing. This describes student performance in terms of relative position. We are comparing the performance of one student against the performance of another student, maybe in the same college or in the different college, but under the umbrella of a same technical education board or technical university. Say there are five colleges under particular technical university. So the same subject, same question paper. Okay. So you are comparing the performance of one student against the performance of another student. So student performance is assessed relative to the other students. So based upon the assumption of a standard normal Gaussian distribution. Now this is applicable in case the number is more than 30. So you can employ the score, Z score, and Z score can be determined by calculating x minus mean x divided by standard deviation. So top 10% student can be awarded grade A, next 20% B, center 40% C, next 20% D, and bottom F%, 10% can be given the this one. Now coming to two very important characteristics of an evaluation tool. Firstly, it is the validity. Validity is the most important, uh, you can say, characteristics. We want to know to what extent will the interpretation of the scores be appropriate, meaningful, and even useful for the intended application of results. So, it is the extent to which a test measures what it is supposed to measure. It is specific to some particular use. If a test is to be used to describe student achievement, we should like to be able to interpret these scores as a relevant and representative sample of the achievement domain to be measured. So basically, validity is always concerned with the specific use of the results and even the soundness of our proposed, you see, interpretation. So validity means appropriateness of the interpretation. Validity is a matter of degree, I would say, because it doesn't exist on an all or none basis. Evaluation results are not valid or invalid, but we say these specify the degree: high validity, moderate validity, or low validity. Okay, so as I said, that validity is very specific to some particular use or interpretation, because no test is valid for all purposes. For example, engineering mathematics subject is taught in semester 1 and likewise in semester 2. The tool meant for the semester 1 cannot be administered to the subject of engineering mathematics uh, offered in semester 2, and vice versa. It is specific to some particular use. So content validity, we have to ensure that whether the content included in a question paper gives the representation to the whole content or not, whether it covers all the learning ability level or not. So that part we will take up tomorrow when we will learn about how to set a paper which can provide valid and reliable results. Now let us have a look at various factors if you do not consider while preparing question paper will not provide valid results, so that will lower the validity. So as a paper setter, you need to ensure that the factors are controlled. Firstly, ambiguity in statements. Give clear statement. When I say what are the applications of lubricants, now how many applications, whether of particular lubricant, classification of lubricant, not clear. Unclear instructions. You have asked question, explain the working principle of carburetor of an IC engine. Now you will get different responses. One student has explained the working principle, another student has also drawn the sketch. Now you will give more marks to a student who has drawn the sketch. The other student was not at fault because The question statement doesn't indicate the intentions of the paper setter. Now, if your intentions are clearly indicated in the statement of the question, definitely the student will give the appropriate response. The question should have been explained with a neat sketch the working principle of carburetor of an IC engine. Now, I ask question, what is coal? Coal, COAL. One person will give the advantages of coal, another person will give the composition of coal, another person will say it is a fuel, another person it will he will say it is a burning amber. Now, what you want to get the answer, what type of answer you want to get is not clearly indicated. So, because of unclear instructions, you will not get the desired result. Poorly prepared items and poorly arranged items. For example, you have set a question paper. The very first question is very tough. Student is confused. Second question again is tough. So please arrange from simple to difficult. Once he sees the first question as a very simple, he feels very happy. He gets confidence. He can attempt the difficult questions at the later stage also. Then another is in case of the questionnaires, or say you have given 10 multiple choice question. First question, the answer is 1, second answer is 2, third MCQ answer is 3, fourth का 4 है, 5 का 5 है, 5 का फिर 1 है, 6 का 2 है. You have arranged in such a manner. Student will start adopting a definite pattern. So don't arrange in this manner. Sometimes the items which are not covered in the class are you see the students have to answer those questions. Sometimes the vocabulary is very difficult. The student knows the answer, but because of the statement of the question is not clear, he says elucidate. Now the student is confused. What is meant by elucidate? Enumerate. So my suggestion to all my teachers who are attending this particular program, please discuss final semester question paper before the end of the semester and make your student aware about the different terminologies used in a question paper. But as a teacher, I will say, please use simple language. Please write the question of the statement of the question in the language of the student. Okay, and in case some cheating by some participant is another. So you have to control all these factors in order to enhance the validity of your results. The second important one is the reliability. Now, reliability is the consistency of results from one measurement to another measurement. Okay. For example, one teacher had just given one test to his students. Now, the three situations arise. How similar would the students' scores have been had he tested them yesterday, today, tomorrow, or next week? How much the scores have varied had he selected a different sample of equivalent item? For example, you have prepared two question paper. And third, if it were an essay test containing the confusing statement, how much would the scores have differed had a different teacher scored it? That is, if one answer sheet is marked by more than two teachers, if the answer sheet gets almost same marks, it means the results are quite reliable. There can be a difference of 1 or 2 marks, but the difference should not be in any case significant. So these are the types of questions with which reliability is concerned. Unless the measurement can be shown to be reasonably consistent, meaning generalizable over different occasion or over different sample of same performance domain, we can have little confidence in the results. On the other hand, we cannot expect test results to be perfectly consistent. Why? Because there are many factors that may influence test scores. For example, if a single test is administered to the same group twice in close succession, that is, you have administered at 10 o'clock in the morning and the same test is administered at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, same day. Some variation in scores can be expected because of temporary fluctuations in memory, attention, fatigue, effort, guessing, and like that. But if there is more, uh, you see, with a longer time period between two tests, additional variation. For example, the test is given today and same test is given after 5 days or 10 days. Additional variation in scores may be caused by intervening period, intervening learning experiences, change in health, even forgetting, or less comparable testing condition. So if we use two types of test based upon same table of substitution, one test the student finds is very easy, second test student finds is very difficult. There is no internal, there is no stability. So more consistent the results, lesser would be the measurement error and greater would be the reliability. Now again, as a teacher, you need to consider certain factors in order to enhance the reliability. One is the length of the test. I say in general, the longer the test, the higher would be its reliability. This is because a longer test means test containing more items, because a longer test will provide a more adequate sample of behavior being measured. There are no chance factors, and the scores are apt to be less distorted by chance factor like guessing. For example, if I ask you to spell one word, there will be two situations, either perfect spellers or complete failures. If the word is difficult, most students would fail. If the word is easy, most students would appear to be perfect. So the fact that one word provides an unreliable estimate of a student's spelling ability. So prepare a longer test containing more words. So scores based on a large number of spelling words are more apt to reflect real differences in spelling ability, and therefore they are more stable. So by increasing the size of the sample of spelling behavior, we can increase the consistency of our measurement. Second is the difficulty of the test. If the test is very difficult, student marks would be like 90, 89, 88, 87. If the test is if the test is very easy, student marks would be 90, 89, 88, 87. If the test is very difficult, students' marks would be like 50, 49, 48, 47. Now, what is consistency? If the same student is marked by two teachers, they may not retain their relative position. The student who has got 90 marks may get 86 or 85 if that student is you see evaluated by other teacher, and the person who has got 86 may get 89 because spread of score is very less. So for the easy tests, scores are close together at the top end of the scale and at the bottom end in case of difficult tests. Okay, so you need to have adequate difficulty level. You can follow the normal probability curve. uh, Say 15% of that item should be very difficult, 15% of items should be very simple, and rest of the 70% items can pertain to average ability level. Then objectivity of scoring. Objectivity means the degree to which equally competent scorers obtain the same results. And as you know that reliability of objective test results is not affected by the scoring procedures, isn't it? Another is the usability, that is ease of administration, time, ease of interpretation, cost, norms, and so on. Now coming to the techniques of assessment. Firstly, it is the uh, essay type, that is open book, open-ended, closed book, open-ended. So this is extended response, I would say. So this kind of question allows the student to select any factual information that he thinks is pertinent. He is given freedom to organize the answer in accordance with his best judgment. But this freedom you have given him will enable him to select, organize, integrate, and evaluate ideas. The question is, write a scientific evaluation of the Copernican theory of the solar system. Include scientific observations that support your statements. Highly open-ended. Explain how poverty can be removed in India. Describe the applications of the laws of supply and demand in real world. Highly open-ended. Now you have given enough freedom, so this same freedom makes the extended response question inefficient for measuring more specific learning outcome and introduces scoring difficulties that severely restrict its use as a measuring instrument. Of course, the advantages are that no restriction to the student, and you can assess their argumentative skill, but it has got certain disadvantages. Now coming to written test essay type, that is the restricted response essay question. When I say describe two situations, describe two situations that demonstrate the application of law of conservation of energy. Another example, describe with a neat sketch the working principle of carburetor of four-stroke IC engine. State three main differences between covalent and electrovalent compounds. So the restricted response question usually limits both the content and the form of student response. The content is usually restricted by the scope of the topic to be discussed, and limitation on the form of response are generally indicated in the statement of the question. So it has got advantages. It can give more coverage to the syllabi. You can use restricted response essay question on a regular basis. Short answer question, for example, state the relationship between molecular weight and vapor density, define inertia, state Newton's first law of motion, or explain Newton's first law of motion with one example. 8 is what percentage of 64? Name one sulfide ore of copper. Name the device that is used in a vacuum cleaner to pump air into the dust bag. These questions may be of 1 or maximum of 2 marks. So you can measure students' understanding level also. These questions are easily constructed. Scoring is relatively more objective. But you will not ask question like what is force, what is coal. So you have to follow the golden rule. What is the golden rule? Think of the intended answer first and then write the statement of the question to which that answer is the only appropriate answer. So this will avoid indefiniteness, this will avoid multiple correct answer. So don't ask what is coal because you want answer fuel. Now there is nothing in the statement of what is coal to imply that the answer fuel is wanted. Student may give another type of answers also, but you will deduct their marks if they have not responded to fuel, isn't it? Then coming to objective type test, firstly true false. So you are giving statement and at the end of the statement two responses, true false, yes no, agree disagree. Okay, so easily constructed. More items can be evaluated. Then there is matching type item where the stem contains the statement of the basis on which the items of the first column are to be matched by the items of the second column. So matching type involves association of two things. You can construct easily, but better would be that if there are four premises, there are four items in the premises column, that the first column, there should be at least 6 or 7 responses or choices in the second column in order to avoid any, you see, guesswork. Then multiple choice item, wonderful items. You can go for 5 responses, 4 responses. One of the responses is the key, that is the correct answer, and the other are the distractor, but the distractor need to be plausible. That is, every answer should have an equal probability of being selected by the student if the student commits some error, not like odd man out. Okay, ये तो हो ही नहीं सकता. So as a teacher, you need to know the guidelines of preparing multiple choice item. Now coming to written test, open book. I think many good institutions have started opting for open book concept. An open book examination, is that in which students are allowed to refer to either class notes or summaries or maybe 2 or 3 textbooks or some other approved material while answering question. It is like question paper is given to the students prior to sitting in the examination. So open book exams allow students to take notes, textbooks, resource material into an examination situation. Now, very difficult to set kinds of question for an open book examination. So open book examination work only when answers cannot be readily extracted from the material. If the student has thoroughly studied the subject, only he or she will be able to uh, find the answer. Because you see, advantage is that you need not worry about rote memorizing the formulas. Formulas are available, but how formula, which formula the student has to use for solving a particular problem, that is the skill, creativity. So such type of questions are difficult to construct and suitable for high ability groups. So you can begin with the final year students, the open book examination, because they are quite mature. Another is skill test, that is the performance, to measure the performance of students in practical work. Skill test or performance test, laboratory project, workshop practice. So you need to design or you need to develop rubrics for the measurement of student performance. Oral questioning during a workshop, during the practical, or oral coaching during delivering lecture in the classroom. So you can test knowledge, oral communication skills, and so on. Okay, and as a teacher, you need to have skill. Then observational techniques like checklist. So a list of items, and you have to check whether it is present or not. So easy to construct, simple scoring used for diagnostic purpose, but difficulty is that you fail to discriminate among students because you are simply observing whether something is present or absent. Now, for overcoming this difficulty, you can go for rating scales. For example, say I can ask one, I can give one statement to you. Express your level of satisfaction after attending to my lecture. One option is highly dissatisfied, second is dissatisfied, third is neutral, fourth is satisfied, fifth is highly satisfied. So you can go for rating scale. So numerical rating scale, and then self-report inventory, like say you want to identify your own interests, you want to identify your own learning style. So you can there are certain self-report inventories are available, and questionnaires, aptitude test, numerical reasoning, inductive reasoning, logical reasoning, error checking test, personality test, or say leadership test, motivational test, situational judgment test. These are available. Now, this is very important. Sociometric technique. So this is a qualitative measure of social relationship, like social acceptance, how much an individual is liked by peers, and social status. So through this technique, the teacher can measure the acceptance or rejection frequently between the members of the group. You see, we have commonly observed that some students always like to stay together. Some students are more liked by all students. Some students are not at all liked by anyone. So these social relationships existing among them can influence different aspects of their development. So it is very much necessary for the teacher to evaluate these social relationships that exist amongst the students. So this sociometric technique is a method of evaluating the social acceptance of the individual students. So in this technique, we can know which student would be congenial for a working group or companions for certain work. So if the group is very large, you can divide the group into smaller subgroups consisting of 10 members each. The members of each group or subgroup may be numbered from 1 to 10. You can ask member to write the name or the number of a student with whom he or she wants likes most to work, to play, or to sit. Now you see here the student number 9 has emerged out as a leader because he is being liked by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 students out of 10. and there is one student who was not liked at all by any of the students, so he's an isolate. So through this, you can form small groups and you can achieve better results. And the advantage is that the classroom becomes very conducive, simple to use, but difficulty is that time consuming hai, and sometimes some student may hide their real choices. Now I stop here and I open this session for discussion. If you have any query, you are welcome, or you want to contribute, you are freely you can freely contribute. So in this particular session, we have learned about the techniques of assessment. We have started with the concept of measurement evaluation, the types of evaluation, at which stage the different types of evaluation are conducted, and then the characteristics of a good evaluation tool, that is the validity and reliability aspect. So you need to uh, enhance the validity and reliability by considering various factors. And finally, you need to employ various techniques of evaluation, because each has its own advantages and disadvantages. So it will be better to include all the types of tests.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Sir, I'm Dr. Ganga Sharma from JLB IT Unit. So my question is, when you talk about to check the validity of an assessment tool, so are there any set frameworks available, or we just have to set our parameters first to check the
हाँ,
validity, or
हाँ.
can we use some frameworks which are already available or existing?
Firstly, don't begin your question with what, how, discuss. First of all, you write this statement. Now try to discuss yourself with yourself. Does it indicate your own intention? Whether the statement is clear to the student. Suppose आपका intention है that your student should answer fuel to the question what is coal. Okay. So what is coal में he can give any type of answer. मैंने क्वेश्चन पूछा what are Newton's laws of motion. If I ask describe each of three Newton's laws of motion with one example, now scope is limited. आपने बोला state any three advantages and disadvantages of covalent and electrovalent compounds. थ्री एडवांटेज. बहुत बार हम ना क्वेश्चन को खुला छोड़ देते हैं. कोई बच्चा 5 लिखता है, कोई 6 लिखता है, कोई 8 लिखता है. तो आपकी इंटेंशन क्लियर होनी चाहिए. तभी मैंने एक गोल्डन रूल बताया था दैट थिंक ऑफ द इंटेंडेड आंसर फर्स्ट and then write the statement of the question to which that answer is the only appropriate answer. So अगर आप चाहते हो कि बच्चा force की definition लिखे, तो define force. And why question like what do you know about force? Now what do you know about force में अथाह सागर है ना. तो आपके क्वेश्चन जो हैं दे शुड बिगिन विद एक्शन वर्ब. वो ब्लूम्स टेक्सोनॉमी ने बहुत ब्यूटीफुली डिस्क्राइब किए हुए हैं. प्लीज बिगिन योर क्वेश्चन विद एक्शन, दैट विल इंश्योर द वैलिडिटी. और उसमें क्वेश्चन की स्टेटमेंट में स्कोप निश्चित कर दीजिए, तो रिलायबिलिटी भी इनहांस हो जाएगी. और रिलायबिलिटी इनहांस करने के लिए इंस्टेड ऑफ राइट आस्किंग क्वेश्चन राइट ए शॉर्ट नोट ऑन समथिंग जो 10 नंबर का या 20, उसकी जगह पे आप 4 नंबर के 5 सवाल पूछ सकते हो. उससे कवरेज सिलेबस को ज्यादा मिलेगा.